Hey guys, it's Yoda here. I just want to give a big shout out to everyone who's been supporting the channel lately. We are getting monumental amounts of views as compared to what I thought we would get on all these videos that I've been putting out for you. First and foremost, a big shout out to No Swad McBuck fan or Mitch Buck fan, Alex Oceans. He actually subscribed tier 3 to me on Twitch. Mastermind and Gerb, I love you, man. You know that. And then a huge shout out to I Love Wheezies. For those that don't know, I Love Wheezies is the #1 supporter of Halo Wars 2 content creator streams and of course the events on Halo Wars 2 such as tournaments. He funds more of them than anyone else. He is a tremendous guy, so big shout out. I just want to state first here that this video today is a unit masterclass. I have a bunch of ideas for other videos coming out, such as map overlays. I'm going to be doing like map routes, what you should do, what mini bases to take, not take. Going to be doing obviously more unit master classes, leader master classes. Someone gave me the idea of anti master classes or anti master classes, so which that is it'll be like how to defeat the meta in certain situations. So lots of ideas coming to the pipeline. That's just off the top of my head. There's a bunch more. Today's masterclass is going to be on Marines, just your typical everyday average Marine that all the UNSC factions have. It's going to be about engagements with that unit. So when you are using Marines and you are going to fight someone's army, you know right away what is going to be the outcome of that battle. You're going to know how many Marines it takes to beat a Wraith, how many Marines it takes to beat a group of Hornets, Banshees. You're going to even know how many Marines it takes to beat Rangers, which is actually a very common matchup. You're also going to figure out, say, like what level 2 Marines do to counter units. Very important stuff, guys. Again, you guys have been crushing it. I am super stoked about the future of this channel right now. I mean, you guys, you're killing it. You're absolutely killing it. You guys have been giving me a bunch of subs. You've been giving me likes. And my favorite part, guys, seriously, my favorite part of these YouTube videos are the comments. I reply. You guys have been noticing too. I reply to every single comment. All of them. I reply to every single one. Give them all a thumbs up. And I try my absolute best to do that as quickly as possible. I love interacting with my chat on Twitch, so it's no different on YouTube for me. Yeah, I think that's going to be it. And I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and go check me out on Twitch at twitch.tv/Yodesla. I'll see you guys after the video. Marine versus a Flame Trooper, or a Hellbringer as they're called. Obviously, in this 1v1 scenario, the Marine is definitely going to lose. But the point of the test here is to see, you know, how bad does it lose? How much HP does a Hellbringer have to have left for the Marine to actually take it out? And as we can see here, unless that Hellbringer is on red bar, you're not going to take it out with a singular Marine. So here we go. We're jumping in with 5 Marines now versus the Hellbringer. And as we can see, they're actually doing pretty well. And this has to do with scaling. So as a singular Marine dies, because it's got multiple squad members, as with quite a few units in this game in the infantry area, their DPS decreases as the fight goes on. So as we can see, 5 Marines dealt with it handily. So now we're going to try out 4. And we'll see where this takes us. So as we can see here, the fight is actually a lot closer than it would be with the 5 Marines. Yeah, it doesn't scale the way you probably think it would. And here we go. It looks like the 4 Marines do win, leaving a Marine left there. All right, and here we go. We're going to do this yet again. We're going to be bringing in another Marine here. And this time we're going to be going for 3 Marines versus a Flamer. The 4-1, let's see if 3 can do it. I have to be honest, I did not think going into this that 3 Marines could win. So this would be very interesting to see, because when I see a flamer, I'm sure as many of you do as well, and I only have 3 Marines, I tend to run from that flamer. So we'll see if that instinct is correct here. Obviously, if the flamer was hitting multiple Marines at the same time, it might be a different story. But let's see what happens. Flamer is about half, and it just took out 1 unit, but keep in mind there is scaling in this, so as soon as the Marines take out one of those flamers inside that squad, its DPS is going to get cut by 33.33334, whatever it is, repeating. And so there we go, one of the flamers did drop there. It's going to be a 1 Marine versus flamer scenario here in a second. And flamer does manage to take out 2 of the Marines. Now it's down to the 1v1, but technically 1v4 in the squad size department. And I think the Marine is going to take it here. So this is news to me. I gotta be honest, I never would have thought that 3 Marines could beat a flamer. But now I know. So that's actually pretty important information. So now we're going to be seeing a rabbit versus a Marine. Obviously, this turnout is going to be the rabbit winning, and as I've stated in the the pre-vid there, this engagement goes a little differently depending on the level of play you're at, because Marines can wiggle and dodge rabbit shots, but rabbits can also get real up close to the Marine and do rapid fire shooting, which is animation canceling, making it shoot faster. So the engagement goes a little differently depending on your level, but in a straight up engagement, the rabbit does win. And here we go. We're going to see 2 Marines take care of this rabbit handily. And there it goes. Now we're going to be seeing a grenade Marine versus a rabbit here. We're going to see how that goes. Yeah, and there we go. The Grenade Marine did end up winning that. Now it's a Grenade Marine versus an upgraded Rabbit. Now, as you can see here, the little drone on the Rabbit isn't actually shooting because it's not close enough. So it actually puts itself into range on its own to start shooting. So keep that in mind, guys. The little drone on the Rabbit does not shoot at the Rabbit's max range. So you want to get closer to win that fight. The little drone's actually fighting in this instance here, so we're going to be seeing the Rabbit versus the Marine. It's coming down to the wire. The Rabbit gets a little closer yet again. And the Rabbit does end up winning that as well. So now we have a Warthog versus a Combat Tech Marine. There was no point in testing just a Grenade Marine versus Hogs. That scenario is pretty rare unless they are quick teching and you just have Marines. The Hog did win that. And now we're going to be seeing the Hog coming in with a Ram this time around to see if the DPS actually changes. And now we're going to be seeing the 2 Marines actually go after the Warthog. They have both thrown their grenades. The fight is a lot closer than it was before. It's interesting because if you notice, the one-on-one, the Warthog won by quite a bit, right? More than half HP left. But because of that scaling we talked about, it looks like it's going to lose here to the double Marine, even though the one-on-one would make it look like the Hog would win. So now we're going to be seeing the Warthog fight 2 of these Marines here with a Ram. And it looks like yet again the Marine is going to win. All right, now we have a Scorpion tank versus a combat tech marine. That's kind of obvious how that fight's going to go. No surprise there at all whatsoever. All right, so now we're bringing in 5 combat tech marines. This is actually good information, guys, because if you're a cutter or someone, you're sitting on marines a lot of the game and your opponent manages to get to tech 3, even though you're ahead and you probably have map control, it's a good rule of thumb to know how many of your marines it takes to take out particular units in the game. And that's what this test is all about, after all. Obviously, spreading out the marines a little bit more would make this test a little bit more, you know, go a little bit more in the favor of the marines, because obviously the tank main shot does have splash damage there. And it looks like those marines did lose. So now we have 6 instead of 5 marines. They're all going to chuck their grenades there, and we're going to see how the fight goes from here. 5 marines left. The tank is about half HP. Three marines left. The tank is starting to pull it back, but I do not think it's gonna win. And the tank did get blown up there by that final marine shot as it faded away into the black. Another thing, I don't know why I thought this. I thought a combat tech marine beat a sniper in a 1v1 if it was in range. But oddly enough, it does not. So it does take 2 marines. This engagement is kind of rare, though. Obviously, snipers use their range and try to stay away from their opponents. Here we go. We have a combat tech marine versus your basic Hellbringer. No flame upgrade for these. No extra damage. And as we can see, the combat tech marine does a lot better versus the flamer than the standard marine did in our test earlier. So combat tech obviously does quite a bit more. And now we're going to be seeing 2 combat tech marines versus a flamer. We'll see how this goes. From that first test, I would say that these 2 marines should win. So keep in mind that 3 unupgraded marines is what it takes to kill a flamer, albeit just barely. And it looks like 2 combat tech marines takes care of a flamer, no problem. Obviously, with scaling, though, flamers will start getting a lot more splash damage off, and the engagement changes. But with little pocket fights around the map, this is good information to have. And here we go, dispersion nozzle flamers now. That thing is terrifying. Keep in mind, again, if this is a big engagement with a lot of flamers and a lot of marines, the flamers will simply win unless you have the greatest concave / splits in the history of RTS gaming. And now here we go, 3 combat tech marines versus the dispersion nozzle flamer. I think it may just be a little bit too much for that flamer. If the marines were balled up, I'm sure that the flamer would probably take them out. The dispersion is just so pretty. I love looking at this game on max graphics. Here we go, kind of an unnecessary test, but I thought I'd get it out of the way anyway. We're going to be seeing a standardized Cyclops, no upgrade, versus the combat tech marine, and we're going to see how this fight goes. And the combat tech marine does end up winning that out. And now here we go, we have a combat tech marine versus a Cyclops with the shock rounds upgrade. Interestingly enough, we found out that the shock rounds, at least in this scenario, I'm not going to give my opinion on other scenarios, but on this scenario here, it doesn't do any more or any less damage. The marine comes out with the exact same amount of HP, so the shock round did not add any value to an infantry fight. Now here we go. This is where this is interesting, and you guys will see why here. It's going to be a hornet versus a marine. Okay, that's a hornet without wingman. So what you guys are noticing here is that little rocket man in that marine squad is what does the most damage to that hornet. And it was basically a tie there. And so here we go. We're going to test it again to see if someone else comes out on top this time. Same parameters as that last fight you just saw, but it was so close that we wanted to test it yet again. And yet again, they blew each other up on the spot. So here we go. We wanted to scale this up. We didn't do this too much with the other fights, but this one was very interesting. So we actually had 2 Marines versus 2 Hornets. And from this scale point, it looks like the Hornets start to lose, right? So you think, okay, well, if you keep scaling up, the Hornets will lose, right? Well, here we go. Now here's a wingman Hornet fight. Okay, this makes it a little bit different. So wingman obviously helping out here versus the ground units, making that Hornet take the W in that fight. And now we have multiple Hornets versus multiple Marines. 2 wingman Hornets versus 2 combat tech Marines in this fight. And what you're seeing here is one of those Marines actually manages to get a star up in this fight from killing the other Hornet, which is a typical thing you do see. Marines and grunts do tend to rank up pretty quickly, taking out air units. Now understand, guys, this is not a dollar for dollar or population for population fight. This is simply figuring out what unit 1v1 wins or 2v2, 5v5, so that you guys can get an accurate number in your head of how many of each unit you need to beat however many of the other unit. Very, very strong information to have in an RTS game. So now we have 2 startup Marines here versus 2 Hornets. And as you can see, the wingman rockets and that extra bit of damage from the Marines are doing an incredible job. But in the end, I do think the Hornets win this out. These fights, they do drag out a little bit, guys. At least you get to see the pretty particle effects when things blow up. So here we go. We had 10 Marines versus 10 Hornets, because I wanted to see how this scaled up. And as you guys can see here, the Hornets actually end up beating the Marines. Fight's kind of close, but in the end, the Hornets actually do end up beating the Marines in this fight. 5 Hornets now to 3 Marines. 4 Hornets now to 2 Marines. And a singular Marine left. I think one more Hornet might die. But in the end, yeah, the Hornets win. So here we go. Max Pop Marines versus Max Pop Hornet. And we're going to see who takes the W here. This is a population v population fight, guys. And as you guys can see, all the star up on these Marines is really coming into play. They are slaughtering the Hornets. So keep that in mind, guys. In the lower numbers and whatnot, it looks like they do come out on top. But in those super high population v population numbers, the Marines do take it. So here we go. This is, I mean, the test was basically over. We just wanted to finish it up. So here's a Condor versus Marines. I don't actually advise this unless you're heavily pushing your opponent and they have the Condor out and they're defending with it. Fighting an open map Condor with Marines or infantry in general, not a good idea, because the Condor can abuse terrain and move away, and its Y ability is just disgusting, as you guys can see right there. Just does tremendous amounts of damage to these lightly armored units. So as we can see here, the Condor is winning versus every single test we do here with the Marines so far. So keep that in mind. At the end, we'll should be able to tell you how many Marines you should need to have in a typical fight versus a Condor, with adequate splits, of course. Obviously, you could always just get one-shotted by that Y ability and lose all your Marines if you're not split. So here we go. We got a bigger fight here. I do believe that this was 20 Marines or 15 Marines, I think. Looks like that condor starting to take severe damage. And the condor does go down. So basically what we found out through that testing was the sweet spot is between 17 to 20 Marines, 20 being on the safe end, 17 being on the you better have your splits intact range. Here we go. We have 2 Marines versus a vulture here. The vulture does, of course, use its nuke. Why wouldn't we use it? And we're going to see the vulture actually ends up winning that fight. But here we go again. Vulture versus 3 combat tech Marines, and unsurprisingly to me, but maybe surprising to some of you, the Marines do win quite handily. And now we actually have another test here with the warthog. This is a level 2 Marine, guys. I should keep that in mind. We actually got level 2 in our infantry. Because we wanted to test out what it would be like to have level 2 infantry, because this is important, guys. If you're tech 2 and you're getting you're spamming infantry, you have a lot of yellow left over, and instead of going tech 3, you can always upgrade your infantry, making them more powerful. And it does actually change the tide of some of our tests. Like there, one of the Marines actually survived versus the warthog. We have three Marines, even level 2 Marines, guys, still no match for the Scorpion tank. The Scorpion tank is absolutely no joke these days. An absolute beast of a unit. And as you guys can now see here, we have the Marine on its final legs versus the Scorpion tank. And in the end, it does die. So now we actually have 5 Marines going at this Scorpion tank. Of course, they do have that level 2, as we said, which does change the tide of battle a little bit here. So now we have 4 Marines versus the Scorpion tank. It's starting to hunt them down. Every single Marine that it kills, the DPS from the opposition starts to decrease. We've got 3 Marines left now. And there we go. So, as you guys are about to see here, you actually could use, I think it was 1 or 2 less Marines than normally needed without tech upgrades. So tech upgrades are definitely something you guys should look into while you're playing Halo Wars 2. They do work. And now we're seeing the Hornet versus the level 2 Marine, and I gotta tell you, that wasn't even a fair fight. You didn't need to see the end. The Marine absolutely destroyed that Hornet. And now what you're going to be seeing here is a Flamer versus the Combat Tech Marine. Does a little bit of a dance there. Not sure what happened, but the Flamer did end up winning with that Dispersion. And now we're going to be seeing 2 Combat Tech Marines level 2 versus the Dispersion Nozzle Flamer. I think the Flamer did win that first test. So once again, that Flamer doing a weird little dance. And in the end, I do think that the Combat Tech Marine does win. And there we go. The Marine's actually going to be taking out the Flamer now. But the Marine does take exponential damage from that napalm on the floor. So even after the Flamer dies, the Marine still takes damage. And here we go, guys. Moving on now to the Banished segment of the video. We're going to be seeing the Grunt versus the Marine. Just a standard Grunt versus a standard Marine. Now we're going to be seeing a Marine versus 2 Grunts, and as you might expect here, okay balancing, I suppose, by the devs, the Grunts do end up winning. So we tried something a little different there. We got the 2 Marines versus the 2 Grunts here, and it looks like the Grunts are they're just gonna lose. I'm not sure if the Marine squad even fully dies here. Yep, and the grunt does get taken out. The second Marine does live. And now we've got 2 Marines versus 2 grunts yet again, because we wanted to test this again for whatever reason. So what I did here was something interesting. There was a myth a long time ago that in a Marine versus grunt fight, that if you attack the grunts and you leave just the main squad member, the big guy, and you move on to the next squad, it's better for the Marines, or better for whatever you're using to fight. But in this case, obviously not. And I think the Marine still wins here, but not as handily as it did in the previous fight. Yeah, so that makes it a little bit more interesting, I suppose. And now we're going to be seeing the chopper versus the Marine. Now, what you guys are noticing here is, for whatever reason, the chopper wins this fight with a good amount of HP left. And what we found was that because the chopper was so close to the Marine was having a harder time actually fighting back. And we found that if the Marine is on top of the chopper, the Marine does about 20% less damage. And we couldn't figure out why, but so keep that in mind, guys. If you're fighting a chopper with Marines or a grunt and the chopper is literally sitting on top of your units, back away. Don't let the chopper sit on top of your units, because you're going to do less damage to the chopper. Probably goes the same with ghosts or other vehicles. So keep that in mind. Make sure your Marines and grunts are actually shooting at their medium to max distance. And now we have a ramming chopper versus a regular Marine. Now you can see I'm pulling away the Marine, and I'm starting to shoot the chopper. Now it's not shown here, guys, because it's not part of this test, but there is micro tricks when it comes to ramming. So here's a little tidbit of information. If you see a ram coming for one of your infantry units, whether it be a grunt, ranger, Marine, flamer, does not matter, even a Spartan. If they are coming, okay, and that you see the ram coming, click on your infantry squad that's about to get rammed and spam the floor in any direction. When that ram hits, it will not stun that infantry squad. As long as you're spamming the floor, when it gets rammed, the stun will be nullified and there will be no stun. So keep that in mind, guys. It's a little bit of a micro trick, a little bit of a tidbit of information for those that made it this far into the video. It's a little gold nugget that could probably win you a game, believe it or not, or at least give you the tools to win a game. Here we go. We have a jump pack brute versus a Marine. Obviously, the Marines could be running away and kiting this jump pack brute into oblivion, but again, that's not what this test is for. Now we're going to be seeing the 2 Marines versus the chopper, and there we go. The chopper gets absolutely decimated. We have the 2 Marines now versus the jump pack brute. Jump pack brute looks like it might win here. Oh, nope, it's down to a single squad member. Throws one more grenade. We're zooming in on the fight. Jump pack brute doing the best it can. Slams down for a final assault. And the Marines do end up taking it out. So 2 Marines is enough to take out a jump pack brute. Here we go. Little funny bit of a test. We have a suicide grunt. That's how much HP is left on a standard Marine without combat tech when getting hit by a sui. And now we're going to be seeing the combat tech Marine come in here. And it's going to be attacking the grunt, and it ends up winning, obviously. And now this is one of the most requested tests, I think, in the history of Halo Wars 2. And I'm not joking either. This is a very, very highly requested test, even amongst the high players. Basically, the question becomes, how big of a Marine ball do you need to fight a... There's my testing buddy just annihilating Marines there with series. How many Marines does it take, guys, to fight a ball of Rangers? And now we're going to be seeing 2 Marines actually fighting a Ranger. There's 2 combat tech Marines versus the Ranger. As you guys can see, even on low HP, that Ranger is taking quite a bit of damage from that Marine. But in the end, it looks like the Marine is going to end up the victor. Now here we go, 7 Marines versus 5 Rangers. We chuck our grenades out there, but the Rangers just start absolutely eating us up. So it looks like a 7-to-5 ratio of combat tech Marines is not enough to get you that gold star as the Marine player. So keep that in mind, guys. Rangers do melt. And here we go. We got 9 Marines now versus 5 Rangers. And as we can see, the grenades did a good amount of splash damage there. And we're going to continue to focus down the weak Rangers as the fight continues forward. Got a couple of ranked up Marines there. So it looks like so far, the 9-to-5 ratio is looking pretty good. Maybe too good, in fact. I'm gonna be honest, I expected a little more from the Rangers here. And now here we go. We're dropping it down to 8 Marines. Basically the exact same test, the exact same splash radius on those grenade throws. So we started with basically like the 5, then moved to the 7, then up to the 9, then we're back down to the 8. And guys, as you can see, it looks like 8 is just not going to be enough. So, what can we conclude from this? For the safe side, I would say 10 or 2-to-1 ratio of Marines to Rangers. If you see that you have that ratio, you're golden as the Marine player, and you can probably win the fight. So keep that in mind, fellas. 2-to-1 is the safe ratio. Obviously, it's actually 9-to-5, but you guys get it. The safe ratio is 2-to-1. If you want to get technical, it's 9-to-5. However, for most of you out there, I think the 2-to-1 ratio is a good rule of thumb to have in the back of your mind while fighting and seeing these scenarios play out. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a great bit of information, guys. So now you know, even if you're, okay, now this video isn't about Rangers, but you know how many Rangers it takes now to kill Marines and how many Marines it takes to kill Rangers. Interesting little test, just like the Cyclops test. We have the Hunter versus the Marine. Now, interestingly enough, the Hunter actually does better than the Cyclops. Pretty expected, but the Cyclops is a 1 more population, and it does cost more overall than the Cyclops. So, interesting tidbit of information there as well. By the way, guys, we did start off with the Marine. I probably stated this earlier, but we're starting off with the Marine simply because I believe it's probably the most built unit in the game behind like Grunts, Banshees, and what have you. And now we're going to be seeing the Marauder versus the Combat Tech Marine in this 1v1 scenario. And of course, as you'd expect, just like the Warthog, the Marauder does take the W. However, the next test is different than the Marauder of the Hog versus the 2 Marines of the old test. Now, if you guys remember, the 2 Combat Tech Marines won against the Warthog. But as you guys can see here in about a moment, you're going to see the Combat Tech Marine ends up losing. So we pull it up to 3 Combat Tech Marines, obviously because that 2v1 was so close. We knew the outcome here, but in the end, it did not matter. And now we've got some grenade throw Marines coming in against this Locust. We just skipped the 1v1 because I knew the Locust would win the 1v1 here. But it looks like in the end, the 2v1 seemed a little bit too much for the Locust. And the Marine do take it in the 2v1 scenario. Now here we go. Just like the tank test, this is going to be interesting. The Wraith is absolutely no joke, ladies and gentlemen. It is a beast. We'll see how this goes. This was 6 Marines, guys. 6 Marines versus the Wraith here at the start of this fight. And now what you're going to be seeing is the Wraith actually take an L here to the 6 Marines. Moving in now to another fight, we're going to be seeing the Banshee versus Marine. Let me tell you, the Hornet is better in singular combat than the Banshee, so we can only obviously assume who's going to win that. And then here's a silly fight that I didn't even want to do. I'm just going to tell you guys right now, don't do it. Yeah, we just don't do it, okay? There's no... Don't do it. I'm not even going to explain what you just saw. The answer is you don't do it. All right? We're not even going to talk about that fight. We're not going to talk about it. Just don't do it. All right, so we actually had a bunch of level 2 Marines here versus some Rangers now. So we're seeing how much the fight differs. We did get that infantry upgrade. Now this is a very important scenario for those that play Anders out there, especially. And the reason I say that is Anders typically gets level 2 Marines very quickly versus Banished. You know, in general, she gets level 2, whatever she's going for, because of her R&D. So level 2 Marines is not completely out of the playbook at all. It's actually a very commonly played thing versus Rangers as Anders. So as you can see here, the bonus to the infantry upgrades helped out tremendously, and you need about 20% less Marines than you normally do to fight the Rangers.
All right, guys, how was that? I know it's so much to process. I got it. I know it's so much information, but this is one of those videos that you're going to be able to come back and look at and be like, okay, well, I'm playing this guy. He's building nothing but, Scorpion tanks, and I'm getting into this engagement where I have him on one base and I have a bunch of Marines and he's coming out, but I don't want to take the engagement because I don't know if my Marines are going to win. Like, you guys are going to be able to come back to all these videos. I'm going to do a unit masterclass on every single unit in Halo Wars 2. It's going to be a while. Obviously, these videos take a while to make, as well as upload and render and all that jazz. But yeah, guys, again, you guys are killing it in the support department. All my information will be in the description below, as always. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much. Like, comment, subscribe. I will reply to your comment, I promise. And all the support stuff, again, will be in the description below. I hope you guys have a great day. And as always, this is Yodesla, coming to you live from the blue chair.